Yay or Nay Show with Alex V. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex V.
All right, here we go. This is the Yay or Nay Show. This is a sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. We've got a lot of stuff to get into today. I've got a round robin of stories. Let's start with this. Top 7 college football playoff rankings remain unchanged, and let's go over those really quickly. So the new poll came out. Georgia, number 1. Alabama at number 2. And then, of course, coming in at number 3, we have Oregon. We have Ohio State at number 4. And then there comes the big fallout from Cincinnati being number 5. People upset that Michigan is number 6 over Michigan State, number 7. And then, of course, you have Notre Dame, number 8, Oklahoma State, number 9, Wake Forest, 10, Baylor, 11, and Mississippi, 12. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to go any further than that, really, because nobody else really matters after that fact. I mean, Oklahoma's 9-1 at number 13, but they haven't looked good all year long, and I don't think they have a path to be able to get into the playoff at this point, and really do none of the other teams really once you get past really team number, say, 7. I don't think Notre Dame has a shot at getting in. Oklahoma State doesn't have a shot at getting in. I mean, those are really, really, really outside chances. But let's talk about this really quickly. Georgia, number 1, they're going to make it in no matter what. Look, even if they go to the SEC championship and they lose to Alabama, they're still probably going to make it in at number 3. So no matter what, Georgia has secured their spot unless they completely fall apart and get a couple of quick losses. Georgia has solidified their spot, and they are in. Alabama very well may get in with 2 losses as well if they go to the SEC championship and they play an outstanding game against Georgia, and it's a just absolute thriller, goes down to the last second, they lose by a field goal or whatever the case may be. If something like that takes place, Alabama will also get in as a 2-loss team. Now, a lot of people are asking the question, is it fair that Alabama has a chance to make it in as a 2-loss team? The answer to the question, really, in all honesty, is no, but they very well might get in anyway. Look, in life, we all know life's not fair, and certain people have privileges. Alabama, because of their resume, has privileges, and they have played well. They have looked well. They've blown out all the teams they're supposed to blow out. If they lose a second game to Georgia in the SEC championship and they play well, they very well could make it in again, based on their pedigree, based on their resume. You might see them in. Oregon, number 3. A lot of people upset about that. I don't understand why, just because Cincinnati's undefeated. Cincinnati hasn't beat anybody. Okay, who you play and who you beat matters. And Cincinnati is playing garbage teams, and they are barely escaping with victories against garbage teams. So if you're barely escaping with victories against garbage teams, Cincinnati, in all honesty, shouldn't even, and I don't believe they are being considered seriously, because let's just say Oregon gets knocked out, or Ohio State, who's number 4. Let's say they get knocked out. There's no doubt in my mind that Michigan and Michigan State would jump past Cincinnati. Why? They have played real teams. They have real victories. And the losses that they have had have been against real teams. So Michigan and Michigan State, without a doubt, would surpass Cincinnati and make it into the Final Four before Cincinnati ever could. So bottom line is, there is a basically 0 chance, in my opinion, of Cincinnati making it into the college playoff, and I think it absolutely makes sense. Again, they haven't played anybody. They play garbage teams all year long. They got a powder puff schedule, and they're barely beating the weak competition that they're playing. They do not deserve to even be in the top 10 as far as that goes. How they ended up at number 5 is a mystery to me, but Michigan and Michigan State, should somebody lose above Cincinnati, would easily jump past Cincinnati, and that's the way it should be. You're looking for the best teams to be in the college playoff. You're not looking for somebody to be there just simply based on the fact that they're undefeated. And Cincinnati, look, here's the bottom line, because this is the easiest way to do this. If Cincinnati played Georgia, would they win? No, they'd get blown out. If Cincinnati played Alabama, would they win? No, they'd get blown out. If Cincinnati played Oregon, would they win? No, they'd get blown out. If Cincinnati played Ohio State, would they win? No, they'd get blown out. So why are we discussing Cincinnati being in the top 4? And let's go a little further just to hit the home run and make sure we make the point. If Cincinnati played Michigan, would they win? No, they'd get blown out. If Cincinnati played Michigan State, would they win? No, they'd get blown out. Cincinnati did beat Notre Dame, apparently. I guess that's what the story is. So Notre Dame's number 8. So maybe you put Cincinnati at 7, but I'm also not convinced that Notre Dame should be number 8 either. But somebody's got to be there. So I guess why not Notre Dame? So I guess we'll say Notre Dame 8, Cincinnati 7, Michigan should be 5. Michigan State should be 6. Really, that should be reversed also because of the head-to-head. So it should be Michigan State at 5 and Michigan at 6, and that's pretty much how this thing should land. Their philosophy on why Michigan is above Michigan State, they believe, that they are the better team in the eyeball test. Yeah, that would make sense, except for you have a head-to-head matchup where Michigan State won. So, no. Michigan State should be above Michigan. So for the people who are complaining about that, they have every right to. All right. The next story that we have, Toronto Blue Jays, Robbie Ray caps a career with the American League Cy Young, former Arizona Diamondback. Here we go again, proving that the general manager for the Diamondbacks needs to be fired for the pathetic job he has done with the roster for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Robbie Ray leaves. He gets better. And he wins the Cy Young. With the Diamondbacks, the guy couldn't get past 5 innings. His average, I believe, was 3.5 innings. So now he goes to another organization in the Toronto Blue Jays, improves, lasts longer, plays better, and he's the American League Cy Young winner. Yet, with the Diamondbacks, his average, again, was like 3.5 innings per outing. Unbelievable. You got to fire the general manager for the Diamondbacks. I don't know how many times we have to have this discussion. Diamondbacks need to make some business decisions, starting with firing the general manager who's done an absolute pathetic job of building the losing organization that right now is the Arizona Diamondbacks. All right, the next story up. 49ers, Elijah Mitchell. He's expected to play Sunday despite a broken finger. It says here, running back Elijah Mitchell has made a habit of playing through injuries during his rookie season. If the Niners' current hopes come to fruition, this Sunday, you will see Elijah Mitchell playing. Now, again, whether he will, whether he won't, it's probably going to be a game-time decision. This kid's been tough. He's had a great rookie campaign. He's already suffered through some injuries, even throughout the, preseason, moving into the regular season. So he's had a rough year. He's battled through it. He's looked great. He's done an exceptional job, and they're hoping that he makes it on the field on Sunday, and hopefully it works out for him. And as a 49er fan, I'm hoping he's on the field because the 49ers running game and the 49ers offense is much better with Elijah Mitchell. Speaking of offenses and looking better, Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray says he's pretty close to returning from an ankle injury. Look, it's hard to know what's real and what's not real with this thing, and I'll tell you why. There are reports of Kyler Murray. He was on the practice field, but really he didn't stretch or anything with the team. All he really did today was very, very light workouts with the trainer. So basically they were stretching him out, testing his durability, seeing how good he is in regards to strength. But is he really going to be ready to play? You got to question what kind of game shape he's going to be in. All right, he's already been out 2 weeks. And I believe it's going to be a game-time decision. Even if the doctors give him the green light to go ahead and play, then it will ultimately be up to Kyler Murray to make the final decision as to whether he will or won't play. And I don't know that we're going to see Kyler Murray play. I really don't. And I don't think we should, in all honesty. I think, look, if you're that far away, and I believe that's far away by you haven't practiced, you're pushing to get back on the field, and you haven't practiced, you haven't got any reps, it's been a couple of weeks, to me, that's far away. I get it. He says he's pretty close. And the Cardinals are trying to say he's pretty close. To me, that's not close. You haven't practiced. You've been out for a couple of weeks. You're obviously going to have some conditioning issues. And because you haven't taken any live snaps in practice, to me, you're not ready. They're pushing you to get on the field. And in all honesty, when you do that to players, you're pushing them to re-injure themselves and then, therefore, hurt your season even further. I think it's a mistake. They should let Kyler Murray sit out one more week. Maybe he gets some reps in practice next week. But if they push him, If they put him on the field too soon, and I think that's what they're trying to do, I think they are putting Kyler Murray in jeopardy, and they're putting their season in jeopardy. Because look, the Cardinals can only go as far as Kyler Murray can take them. That is fact, not fiction. The next story, college football coaching carousel. The latest buzz on top candidates and the analysis of every vacancy. So I'm going to read you a little bit of this right now. Industry insiders warned us in 2020, despite a higher than expected number of college football coaching changes amid the coronavirus pandemic, the upcoming carousel had a chance to be historically active. The predictions are definitely coming true, beginning with USC. After 2 games and LSU after 7, these schools are making decisions to make coaching changes. So we all know that, again, the LSU vacancy, it's being talked about big time. The USC vacancy, it's being talked about big time. All right. Clay Helton fired at USC. He landed a new job at Georgia Southern by early November. The early signing period for recruiting is fueling athletic directors this year as they hope to finalize hires in time to salvage or bolster classes. There will be a flurry of activity from now until mid-December. We've got you covered. Yes, they do. I'm glad they wrote the story. I really appreciated it because I wasn't sure on what was going on with these coaching changes. I didn't even know, in all honesty, that Clay Helton had already landed a new job at Georgia Southern. So that's pretty cool. But here's the thing. USC, they haven't hired anybody yet. LSU hasn't hired anybody yet. There's a lot of rumors floating around. But I believe certain things need to happen as well. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about locally here in the 602. ASU Sun Devils need to make a move. They need to fire Herm Edwards, and they need to fire Herm Edwards now. And the reason why they need to hurry and make the firing of Herm Edwards is for the same reason that was just stated in the story. Recruiting classes. The time for recruiting classes to be finalized is coming up. You don't need a guy who's not going to be here and who doesn't deserve to be here to be the guy getting you your next recruiting class. Because here's the thing. If you look at the recruiting classes that Herm Edwards has brought in so far, they haven't been good. That's partly the reason why the Sun Devils haven't been good. And the other part, obviously, is because Herm Edwards just isn't that good as a coach. You know, keep in mind, he was a head coach, for the New York Jets. Tell me when the New York Jets have ever been good. So I don't understand when you got a guy who was a coach for a losing organization like the New York Jets. He's the guy that everybody seems to think should have gotten the head coaching job at ASU. Not to mention he was out of coaching for like 11 years. He was at the 4-letter network. And of course, the 4-letter network was screaming about what a great hire he would be, what a great decision ASU had made. They wouldn't regret it. And here we are regretting it. And I said since day one, since they hired Herm Edwards, it was a mistake. You don't hire somebody who has not been coaching for like 11 years, let alone never been a college coach. Last head coaching job, New York Jets, and we all know about the New York Jets. Again, show me where the New York Jets have been a dynamic powerhouse under any coach for that matter. That's just a bad organization altogether. So for anybody to sit here and say that Herm Edwards doesn't need to be fired, first of all, you're crazy. Secondly, if you're going to do the firing, and I hope you are, you need to do it now. And I'll go one step further, and I noticed that students are now, pushing for this as well. The athletic director for ASU, he needs to be fired. Herm Edwards, failure. Have you seen the ASU basketball team? Another coach that they're hanging on too long, he needs to get fired. Athletic director needs to get fired. Look at who the predecessor to Herm Edwards was as a head coach of the ASU football team. They had to let him go because of the pathetic job he did. 6-win seasons, barely getting into the Sun Bowl or whatever garbage bowls ASU's been playing in as of late. Look, this guy obviously cannot pick coaching talent. He needs to be let go. ASU needs to do a search and first and foremost, hire a competent athletic director and then move forward with firing the basketball coach and the football coach. And let's get some people in who can actually get the job done and make ASU a respectable program in regards to basketball and football, because this has absolutely just become a nightmare. It's amazing how bad these teams consistently and constantly are. All right. We got another story up here saying that college football rankings in regards to the playoffs, no movement at the top, and don't expect it to stay that way. I agree. You shouldn't expect it to stay that way. There's one thing that has been consistent, and it's the only thing that has been consistent in regards to the college football season, and that is expect the unexpected. You have upset after upset after upset. Matter of fact, I believe we are setting records with all the new upsets on a weekly basis that are going on right now. We're setting records literally where we are seeing the most ranked teams go down to unranked opponents in college football history. And again, there's a lot of rhymes and reason why that may be happening. I think it's because the talent has been spread out. You got the transfer portal. I believe that has evened things out tremendously. Remember, guys may commit to one university. They go there. They don't play. They get overlooked. They get redshirted, whatever the case may be. And then they go into the transfer portal, and now they're playing for somebody else who was trying to get them to commit. So you have player movement, and it is evening out the playing field. You've got all the TV contracts making it to where everybody gets TV time. So now players don't have to worry about only going to the 4 or 5 top schools anymore in order to get TV time. So when you add in those two very, very big points, it is kind of obvious to me that this is going to continue to be the case, and you're going to see more upsets, and you're going to see more schools joining the top rankings that haven't been there before. I really honestly believe that's going to happen. Now, here's another story here. NFL MVP Watch 2021, ranking the top candidates and risers in a close race, including Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson. Let's read a little bit of this story. The NFL is a strange place in 2021. Every franchise has lost at least 2 games, marking just the 4th time since the 1970 merger we've seen that 10 weeks into the season, according to a 4-letter network stats and information research. And that kind of parity impacts how we judge the league's best players. No most valuable player hopeful is flawless this season, and the race is razor thin. In fact, every top candidate has at least one puzzling loss on his resume. Dak Prescott played late into the 4th quarter of a 30-16 blowout by Denver, while Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson took Week 10 losses against 2-win Washington and Miami teams. Turnovers from Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford have raised eyebrows in recent weeks, and the list goes on. So who are the MVP favorites right now? Well, I pretty much, in all honesty, think we listed them all. Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, and of course, don't forget about Kyler Murray. Even though he's injured, he absolutely is in that race without a doubt. And I don't know. If I were to say, in my opinion, who I think is the top candidate for the MVP, I said this a few weeks ago. I still stand by it. Lamar Jackson. He's the MVP. In my opinion, there's no doubt about it. It's Lamar Jackson. Again, over Dak Prescott, over Tom Brady, over Josh Allen, over Matthew Stafford, over Kyler Murray. Lamar Jackson, absolutely, without a doubt, is the top candidate. But let me show you the list that they have accrued here. Number 1 on their list for the MVP, who else would it be for them other than Tom Brady? Big shock. Lamar Jackson coming in number 2. I said he should be number 1. And again, for me, I think they go too far with these lists. They make list after list after list after list. I don't think there needs to be all these lists, especially for something like this. Who's the best guy? Lamar Jackson. After that, there really doesn't need to be a list, but they put a list. I'll give you more of the list. Number 2, like I said, Lamar Jackson. Number 3, Dak Prescott. Number 4, Kyler Murray. At least they added Kyler Murray to this top 4 list. That's a good thing. Tied for 4th, however, they're saying Josh Allen, and I disagree wholeheartedly. Kyler Murray is way better than Josh Allen. Matthew Stafford, look, Stafford's good. He's having a great season, but Matthew Stafford has a lot of problems. He's looking bad in games. He's overthrowing. He's throwing behind. He's rushing. He's panicking. He's got a lot of games where he doesn't look good, and then 1 quarter out of 4 goes well, and it's normally a 4th quarter, and then all of a sudden they act as if he's having all these great games, when in reality, the eye test tells you, no, he's not. I'm okay with him being number 6. I'm definitely not okay with them saying that he has a chance to actually jump up to number 1 and win the MVP. Because again, all season long, he's been inconsistent and his throws are overthrown, underthrown, behind receivers. He looks bad for quarters at a time. Then he finally has 1 good quarter and they're acting as if because they win the game, he's having all these great games. And if you've actually paid attention and watched any Rams football this year, you would see that that's actually not the case. So that right there is the top 6. There's really no reason to go any further than that. You obviously, though, however, could look at Aaron Rodgers and throw him in there, but I really wouldn't. He is the most valuable to his team, but he is not having a MVP year, in my opinion. But if you put him in there, I'm not mad at it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but he is the MVP to and for his team, but he's not really having an MVP year. An MVP to me is a guy who's taking the team, putting the team on his shoulders, and they're the reason why they are on their way to the potential promised land. That is what Lamar Jackson is doing with an injury-depleted roster and the Baltimore Ravens. And again, you could make an argument for Aaron Rodgers, but I just don't believe that he's having an MVP year. I mean, his great stats, I know his stats are great. I know he's the reason why Green Bay is winning. I'm not saying that's not what's happening, but the thing is we've seen Aaron Rodgers do this year after year after year. So it's nothing new. It's nothing special. It's nothing unexpected. So if you're talking about an MVP, you're talking about a guy who's doing the unexpected and he's overperforming. Aaron Rodgers is performing at the level Aaron Rodgers is supposed to perform at. Lamar Jackson, however, is continuing to improve his performance along with taking the team on his shoulders and giving them a chance to make the postseason and make a run at the Super Bowl. That is what is exceptional and different with Lamar Jackson versus everyone else. So that's what I'm talking about. Here's a story that was a little weird to me when I heard this. Big 12 publicity reprimands Texas Tech football radio announcers who are removed from calling the next game. And this is the thing, because I listened to this story and I read a couple of lines into this story. I'm going to read it to you now, but I read a couple of lines into this story before I started today's show. And the thing is that obviously if I were the commentator for Texas Tech, they'd be suspending or firing me too, because I have been railing against referees this entire season. Now, I haven't seen, in all honesty, any college games where referees have had the problems that pro referees have had in regular NFL games, but apparently it exists. Let's read a little bit of this story. All right, here we go. The Big 12 on Wednesday issued a public reprimand of the Texas Tech football radio announcers for their call on Saturday's 41-38 home win over Iowa State. Play-by-play host Brian Jensen and analyst John Harris were critical of the officials during the game, going so far as to list off individual names. As a result, the league also said Jensen and Harris will be removed from calling this weekend's home game against Oklahoma State. Now, again, I don't understand, why is it that you have commentators being held to a certain standard? You have fans being told to calm down, never complain about referees. Referees don't win and lose games. We all know, yes, they do. We all know they create momentum in games. And yet, no one holds the officials accountable. Officials make egregiously bad calls consistently and constantly, and a lot of times affecting the outcomes of games. We don't have any kind of a reprimand for them publicly or in private, from what I can tell, at all. Yet, we have a reprimand for the play-by-play announcers because they are critical of the officials. That makes absolutely zero sense to me at all. I don't understand why they work so hard to protect the officials, and everybody else who complains about them gets fined, suspended. I don't understand this at all. Here's a story I'm really curious about. I really haven't read into the story. I heard something about it, but it was kind of in passing. So we're going to kind of discover this one together. It says Major League Baseball to provide minor leaguers with more furnished housing across all levels. All right, so it says an expansion of housing accommodations is expected to provide more than 90% of minor league players with furnished housing accommodations across every level. Major League Baseball announced this on Thursday. The policy will have exceptions, including players with major league uniform, player contracts, and minor leaguers scheduled to make six-figure salaries over a full season. Players will receive housing at AAA, AA, Single A, High and Low A, and at spring training complex levels. Okay, the owners went into our first season modernizing the player development system focused on addressing long-standing issues that have impacted minor league players for decades. Morgan Sword, MLB's executive vice president of baseball operations, said in a new release, as part of the new system, owners increased salaries from 38% to 72% for 2021, improved facilities, provided more amenities and better clubhouse conditions, removed all clubhouse dues, and reduced in-season travel with better geographical alignment. So they're making some work to go ahead and accommodate the lower level players, and I think that's great. Because you always hear the horror stories about guys on buses and going to bad hotels and having a hard time finding a place to eat and traveling all day, and then they finally got to play like an hour after they get off the bus. So we've heard all the horror stories. Sounds like they're making it better. I like it. I have no problem with that. Congratulations, MLB, on addressing something that actually was a big problem. There's a bunch of stuff, actually, that I did want to go over today, but it looks like I don't have time, so we'll go over them tomorrow. Tonight, we've got Thursday Night Football, as you guys know. I don't know really what to say about this game. It's a little on the tricky side, if you ask me. But if I was going to go ahead and bet on who was going to win this game, I would have to give it to the New England Patriots. But here's what's tricky. Atlanta's been streaky. They're hot, they're cold. They're not good. Again, Cowboys blew them up because they're not a good team. But what's been weird about this year and why I'm saying this game is tricky is because this is a game where, like for me, I bet on football, right? So if I were to bet on tonight's game, I would throw the money load on New England. But every time I have found that I have done that this year, the team that should be getting blown out, all of a sudden, they win. So this is kind of a trap bet, which makes it a trap game. Atlanta, again, streaky, not good. They're just streaky. They get in these weird funks where they play better than they should. But New England, rolling, arguably best coach in NFL history. Mac Jones playing out of his mind. I get it. He's a rookie, so they're still in rebuild mode. So if New England lost tonight's game, I wouldn't fault New England. I wouldn't make fun of New England. And in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised by New England losing. But it is, if you go by the eye test of what's been happening with New England in recent weeks, it is a game that New England should win. But again, if they don't win and if they lose, it's fine. I understand it. Rebuild team, rookie quarterback. But Atlanta is really a team, if you in fact are going to make a run at winning your division, and a lot of people believe New England should be making a run to win the division, if you are in fact going to make a run to win your division, then this absolutely is an almost must-win game for New England. Only for the simple reason of to show everybody that you're for real and that you are actually going to be a contender in winning your division. But you got to win, and you got to win big. You got to put on a show beating Atlanta tonight. So, again, trap bet, though. I don't know that I would bet this game. I still haven't decided whether I'm going to bet this game or not. Again, normally, because it's been a weird NFL season, almost like it has been a very weird college football season, on these games, when you have no-brainer deals where you know Team A is supposed to blow out Team B, all of a sudden, Team B comes out of nowhere and wins, and that's been happening all year long. So, again, trap bet, trap game. But to me, in my eyes, this is a game New England should be focused for, and Mac and Cheese should be ready to go, and they need to win and win big if they're going to show the NFL that they're for real. They're not just a rebuild team with a rookie quarterback, and they actually want to win their division. They need to win tonight and win big. But if they don't, again, I won't be surprised. I won't make fun of them. I won't be mad at them for the simple reason of rookie quarterback and a rebuild team. You guys enjoyed tonight's action. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more tomorrow.